What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on this Caitlin Clark situation, right? And I just seen like a recent report that Caitlin Clark and what's the young lady from the Raven Johnson, right? Might have had like a little there might be some issues with Raven Johnson. Some people say that Raven Johnson still hasn't gotten over the beef they had while they was in college, right? And so now I'm thinking that the WNBA just recently got, they just got a raise and things are looking good for them. And I'm thinking that this is do or die for the WNBA, right? That they have to. I mean, because the word that kept got was getting thrown around was sustainability, right? Would the WNBA be able to sustain the growth that they had in the last recent years? And so that was a big part of the negotiations. And so I think that the WNBA really, well, the players, in my opinion, really have to do what they can do in order to grow the league. And so if this beefing continues to go on with Caitlin Clark, I think it's just gonna hurt the league. Wait a minute, hold on. I'm gonna do a sound check. Okay. Yeah, I think it's just gonna hurt the league. And so from what I'm seeing already early in the season, it's just not really looking good for the WNBA. I think that they are going to mess up a good thing. Now, not that like everybody in the WNBA should feel like they're riding Caitlin Clark's, they're on her back and just allow her to carry the league. But at least I think that her teammates, should find a way to be able to get along and see the big picture, right? So I'm hoping that they don't have any type of beef on their own team when it comes to Caitlin Clark and Raven Johnson and whoever else on her team, right? They need to, if they want to be successful, the Indiana Fever, they need to put up a united front, right? And so I can't really figure out this. Also almost reminds me of the situation with Tiger Woods when Tiger Woods first came to golf. Like he got some pushback, right? But everybody in golf just saying that like Tiger's presence in golf was good for golf in general, right? And so, like they say, that, like a high tide rises all ships. And so Tiger's ability to play golf and to bring a whole new demographic to golf was good for golf, and everybody benefited from golf from Tiger Woods' presence in golf. So I can't really see why these WNBA players can't really realize that, like whether you believe that Caitlin Clark is as good as what they say she is, or not. I just think that this is a chance where the WNBA has an opportunity to grow and take that next step. Like some of what they got in their, in the last collective bargaining agreement, they didn't get everything they wanted, right? And so what you did get some of what you wanted. And so now this is an opportunity for you to just to build on that and to go, and just take the WNBA to a whole nother level, right? And so, I just don't get it. So when you have reports coming out that Raven Johnson, refused to shake her hand and stuff like that, I was like, man, I hope that you know, they not starting this stuff already this season. You know, I don't know why these WNBA players, like it's not like, I think in the NBA you wouldn't have this issue. I also think that in the like I said, in golf you didn't have this issue because these guys are looking at the big picture when it comes to growth, and when it comes to like benefiting from a player. When it comes to benefiting from having a certain player in the league. right? And so we understand that, like Caitlin Clark brings a lot to the table, with shooting the logo threes and the massive fan support that Caitlin Clark brings, instant star power and all that stuff. I mean, you as a player, as one of her peers, you couldn't ask for a better situation. And it just seems like some people feel like if it's not them that is receiving all this attention, and it's not them who have this perceived impact on the WNBA, then they kind of, I'm saying that some players are jealous. Caitlin Clark is, she's a very versatile player. She can score, rebound. I mean, she could just do a whole lot on the court, right? She can do a ton on the court. So yeah, I'm hoping that this is a situation where these WNBA players can just, I don't know what personal what personal grudges they have against her, but hopefully they can get past this, because if the WNBA, in my opinion, don't continue to grow after this, this collective bargaining, and they was threatening to go on strike, and saying if you don't pay us, we're not gonna play, and all this other stuff like this. I don't know, man. I just think the next time they go to the table, they just not gonna have the type of they're not gonna have even less leverage than what they had last time. So just imagine if Caitlin, they managed to Caitlin Clark don't have the type of success that people projecting her to have. And the next time you go to the bargaining table, and it's time for you to ask for more money, you don't have that leverage. So I think that these women should learn how to work together, especially where that's concerned, because you have the players on one side, and then you have the owners and the organization on another side, right? And the word that kept getting thrown around, in my opinion, it was just sustainability. And if they can't sustain this growth, this is the time where they have to really prove that they are worth the money that they're asking for. I'm not sure. I forgot the percentage that they were asking for as far as like revenue share, but you know, um, they're not going to be able to get the amount of revenue share that they got last time. Let me see. I got some let me see. We don't want to deal with the WNBA as a Democratic Party still organization of white liberals and black people in general, and black women in particular have the lowest self-esteem. Um, I think too, like when you look at it from, I just think that's low hanging fruit, right? Because you have other white women in the WNBA who don't really get the pushback that Caitlin Clark is getting, right? And so, in my opinion, I think the jealousy is because of the fanfare that Caitlin Clark come with, and just a lot of the attention that Caitlin Clark got when she was in college. So, I don't want to blame it on the Democrats. I don't want to blame it on and I don't want to say that like black women have low self-esteem, because yeah, I don't think it's that. I just think, like I said, I think the jealousy stems from the attention that Caitlin Clark that she got, from being at IO. She came in with a lot of fanfare. And so when she came in with all that fanfare and all that attention, black and white players were saying, well, we don't, Caitlin Clark is not going to have the same type of success at in the league that she did at Iowa. She don't have the green light the same way she did when she was in college. Right. And so that's what people were saying, and you had black players and white players saying the same thing. Right. What was it? Diana Taurasi said that, you know, not only it was Diana Taurasi, but what was the coach name? Gino Oriama said the same thing. She won't be able to have that green light and jack the ball up like she did when she was at Iowa State, right? And even some people said that her coach, Stephanie White, they felt like Stephanie White also was holding Caitlin Clark back, right? But once you leave college and you go to the next level to play basketball, and you go to the WNBA and you to play, it's just they want you to fit more so into like the team format, right? You have to sort of conform. And I think the WNBA, they're not used to building around a player like they like in the NBA. Like when the NBA built around LeBron James, or not just really built, say like when LeBron went to the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? And the Cleveland Cavaliers, he got some pushback. There was players on that Cavalier team saying, "Man, we're not going to follow no rookie. We're not going to ain't no rookie going to be able to lead us or be, and what happened was some of those guys just they wasn't on the team because the league and the team was looking at the big picture. Same thing when Michael Jordan came along, right? You had players on Chicago who didn't want to see Michael succeed the way, and they were jealous of the attention that Michael was getting, right? And it was the same thing. But you have the team and the league who was it was the same way with Kobe also, right? And then Magic. I think a lot of the guys when they are franchise, like if a league or your team projects you to be a franchise ball player, they're gonna do everything to get behind you and push you, right? And I can't really see how the league, the WNBA, or the Indiana Fever has done that for Caitlin Clark. When she came in with the fan base and the attention that she did, it just would seem like to me that everybody would have got on board and be like, all right, we're going to push. This is what the fans want. This is what the fan base want. They want Caitlin Clark. She has that draws the people to the league or and makes the league more popular. So why not get behind that? Why not push her? You had people who are endorsing the WNBA, like what is it? State Farm, Gatorade, Nike, all of those. Everybody who was endorsing us just saying like they was behind her, but it just seems like when it came to the Fever, that they weren't behind her. Let me see what this guy says. A psychologist define people with so low self-esteem as people who seek eternal validity of self, right? Um Again, I don't know, man. I just think that I don't know if that definition applied in this situation because, like I said, I just think that these ladies, to a certain extent, are just trying to be competitive or feel like that they don't. Some of these guys don't. Some of these young ladies don't think that Caitlin Clark, or they believe that they're just as good as Caitlin Clark, right? But everybody can't have the green light, and you hear that same thing in the NBA. Everybody on the team wants the green light, but people have to play their role. They have to get in their lane in order for the team to have success. And so sometimes, you know, you have to find other ways to help the team out instead of the way that you want to be able to help the team out. And that's what the situation I think is with not just the Indiana Fever, but the league in general. And it almost appears to me that maybe the league don't even really want to be successful, you know, because I haven't seen anything from Caitlin Clark that shows that she's not able to live up to the billing, right? Like she's going to crack in big moments or anything like that. Every time she get out there on the court, she perform. Even when you have defenses picking her up full court, um, she just fight through that, and so she's going to do. In my opinion, she's doing her part. She's going to do, but I just think that the rest of the league really need to ride this wave if they because I don't think that the WNBA they're competing with the NBA number one. So it's just people have so many different options when it comes to entertainment and sports. So the WNBA they need to find a wave and ride it. You know, um, and not really everybody get caught up in their uh not really get caught up in their feelings. Let me see. I want to respect your chat, and I wish more people was on it because it's a fascinating discussion to have. All right, so let me see. All right, I want to respect your chat, and I wish more people was on it because I want to discuss you having. So I will refrain from making any more comments. I mean, I don't have a problem with the comments. I just think that, like I said, um, I don't agree with like the racism aspect of it. And I know like a lot of times when you have black athletes and white athletes, that's just low hanging fruit. But like I said earlier, when when you have like Larry Bird, for instance, right? And I know like some guys thought that Larry Bird was receiving preferential treatment because he was a white guy, right? And the thing I liked about Larry Bird is Larry Bird Larry Bird didn't feed into it, man. Larry Bird, man, he just went out there and he no matter who you put in front of him, he just bust people ass. And so he like if that was how the fan base felt, that was on them. If the media wanted to play that the race angle up when it came to Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, that was on them. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird they didn't feed into that. They did their job. They just went out and they played basketball, right? And Larry made his team better. Larry Bird, he won 3 championships, and he just didn't feed into it. You had other players like who was it? Dennis Rodman and what was the guy name? Dennis Rodman and Isaiah Thomas made a comment one time about if Larry Bird was a black guy, he'd just be an ordinary, just another guy, right? And even that situation, Larry Bird, the way he handled that situation when they made that statement, I think the statement was really made by Dennis Rodman and Isaiah Thomas. I think just agreed with him or something like that, right? But even the way Larry Bird handled that situation, it was just like, he just in one ear and out the other ear. And he just continued to do what he was there for, and that's just to win games and win championships. So you really can't. Some people are not going to like you because because you're different, you black or you white or something like that. So some people gonna have issues with it. But how you overcome that, I think, is just you do your job. You do your job. And so now when you listen to Isaiah Thomas and any black guy who faced Larry Bird, man, they just don't. They have the utmost respect for Larry Bird, And now, if Larry Bird had a fed into that and was like, man, everybody's discriminating against me, they being hard on me because I'm a white guy and everything. If he had a fed into that at any point, I just don't think that Larry Bird would have been the kind of player that he needed to be to lead the Boston Celtics to 3 championships. And so I think the same thing with Caitlin Clark, right? She just don't seem like she's going to feed into any of that. And I like the way she's managing like a lot of things that's going on when it comes to like the media and some of the reports are coming out. She's just not feeding into it, right? So that's why I just think that she really needs to get just, the Indiana Fever just need to lean into, just lean into her popularity. Not just the Indiana Fever, but just allow the league to grow because she has that fan base. Fans just gravitate to her. They like the way she played. They like her moxie and everything she brings to the table. And it just seems like her coach don't want to lean into it. It seems like the fan base is leaning into it. The sponsors is leaning into it, but her peers and and some of the people around the league is just not really leaning into it. Let me see what we say. Cheryl Swoops wanted to diminish CC right from the beginning, right? And see, like now with Cheryl Swoops, right? What she said, I heard her statements from the beginning, and I think that Cheryl, and not to make any excuses either for Cheryl Swoops, I just think that she probably was speaking from experience. Like when you see rookies coming in and people who have so much, they get so much freedom. They had a green light when they at college. Like Caitlin Clark, when she was at Iowa, she can shoot from anywhere. She could shoot as much as she want because she was that kind of player. She was that good in college, man. She just broke all, she's breaking records all over the place, right? And so Cheryl Swoops was like, she not gonna have that kind of leeway at the next level, you know. And not only does Cheryl, and a few other people said it. Like I said, Gino Oriama was saying that, he didn't think she was gonna have that type of effect on the WNBA as she did at Iowa. But now, just think about it like this. They say that stars are chosen, right? I heard them say this about the NBA, that stars are chosen, right? So, and if that's the case, and if stars are chosen, then and you see like how this young lady like how the fans just really loved her and gravitated towards her. Like this was like on a silver platter, like you giving somebody a gift on a silver platter, and then they don't take it, man. I just think, if stars are made and chosen, then I think this was the opportunity for the WNBA to just to lean into her like everybody else did, man. Or at least don't do anything to at least don't do anything to hold her back. Like not her teammates, not her not the coach, not Stephanie White or any of that. I just think that, that they need the WNBA really need, in my opinion, for Caitlin Clark to be successful and to go to the next league. Like I like Paige Beckers, I like Asia Wilson, and a lot of what's the other young Angel Reese. I like all of these other young ladies in the WNBA, right? But it just seems like the fans and the media, if they say, "Hey, we want Caitlin," what I mean, this is the one. She's the one. She's the star. That's not to say that like Asia Wilson shouldn't get her props, man, for the career that she's having, right? But it's just so much more difficult to market a low post player than it is somebody like Caitlin Clark, who's a guard, right? Who's going to make fancy plays. Like for me, like when I'm watching Asia Wilson, and because I watch a lot of basketball and I see the moves she do in the low post, like I can get really pumped and excited about that, right? But for the for the novice fan, the person who don't watch a lot of basketball or who just like, they're just a casual fan. When you see Caitlin Clark shooting from the logo, that's impressive, right? It's more impressive to them because they don't really understand the nuances of a low post basketball player like Asia Wilson, but they can appreciate what Caitlin Clark do when she just stop on a dime and just drain a logo three. That's just, it's like, that makes her appeal to a larger market. So now, is it fair that sometimes Asia Wilson won't get she won't get the appreciation that she worked hard for? No, no, it's not fair, but it just comes with the territory, And like I said, people who know basketball know, you know, how much work other basketball players put into their craft. Other basketball players you know, who not gonna get the credit that but they get the credit, but not to the extent that Caitlin Clark did. So yeah. Also, Gino Oriama, like I said, and Gino Oriama he kind of backed off some of his comments that he made about Caitlin Clark. Why did he back off about his comments with Caitlin Clark? Because Caitlin Clark made him back off. You know what I mean? She got out there and she proved that she can have the same kind of swag and the same kind of moxie in her game that she had at college, right? But if she had to pay any attention to Cheryl Swoops, if she had to pay any attention to Gino Oriama, and allowed them to crush her confidence, then she wouldn't have, like the swag that she had when she was at Iowa. If she didn't bring that, then she would have proved Gino Auriemma right. But she didn't do that, and so that's why I said, man, it's the way she's handling the media, the way she's handling like the pressure from from her opponents, and then some of it coming from like maybe jealous players on her team. I think it's cool, and I just hope that this year that that the Indiana Fever are able to just to ride that wave. Let me see what I got going on here. Gino will never be the same after what he said. Karma has started with him, and you know what? And I think I have never really been like a Gino fan. I respect what he's done in women's basketball, right? All the championships. I think what he got like 12 WNBA, college championships, something like that. I always been a Pat Summit fan, right? And I didn't think it was a good look for Gino Auriemma when he like the way he reacted after they lost to South Carolina. I didn't think it was a good look. Because just think about it. When you talk about coaches, like coaches are supposed to set an example when even in winning, like winning and losing, you want to lose with grace. If you win with grace, you want to lose with grace. So I don't know what his issue was with Dawn Staley, but the way he handled that situation just wasn't a good look for him. Gino Auriemma, he didn't always get along with Pat Summit. I was a Pat Summit fan. Tennessee, Pat Summit she had some bad teams when she was down there. She was an excellent coach. Plus, I don't even think, in my opinion, I don't even think like men, this is just me. I don't even think men should be allowed to coach women because I think it's a double standard. I think that like if women can't coach in men's sports, then men shouldn't be allowed to coach in their sports. So, and that was another reason, like when Gino Auriemma came to UConn, I was, I just wasn't feeling Gino Auriemma, but I respect the success that he has had since he's been, with UConn. It's not easy to have like all those championships and the type of success that he's had. I acknowledge that it's not easy to have that kind of success, but yeah, I just don't think it was a good look for what Gino did, especially like I said. Just imagine if one of Gino players would have reacted like that after the game. He would have publicly got on them, and then he probably would have put out a statement saying that this is not how we conduct ourselves. Sometimes people in leadership, man, they need to be the same kind of leader that they want their that they want their players to be. Just like with the situation that's going on right now with Mike Vrabel and the young lady, what's her name? Diana Rossini, right? Last year you had a situation where what was the wide receiver for the Patriots? He had a situation where, some young lady, he was involved with some young ladies and some inappropriate situations came up. And I believe that may have been the reason for him being let go by the New England Patriots. What's his name? Stefon Diggs. Right. And now you have Mike Vrabel caught up in a situation with Diana Rossini. So I just think that these leaders need to lead by the example. Like what the same thing you telling your players to do, you need to do as a leader. Right. And so that's just how I feel about that situation. Yeah, but Gino Auriemma, gotta respect what he's done at UConn, right? And I just keep saying it, man. He was wrong about Caitlin Clark. He was definitely wrong, and Caitlin Clark proved him wrong by her play on the court. And you can appreciate the fact that she has not allowed any of the naysayers to get into her head and to take away from her game. So, that's one of the things I admire about Caitlin Clark. She got I just think that this right here, if the WNBA don't get it right with Caitlin Clark, I don't think they're going to ever get it right. and just like when what's the guy named Tiger Woods, golf got it right, with Tiger Woods, like the PGA and the sponsors and the players, man, they just got it right. If Tiger is going to be the face of this thing and he's going to make money for the sponsors, he's going to make money for everybody on the tour, then we just going to have to get on board. No matter what your personal feelings were about Tiger Woods, those guys got on board. And it's just too many examples of this happening, right? Like I said, Larry Bird, for the Boston Celtics, man, a lot of people didn't they didn't like Larry Bird, man. Larry Bird, Danny Ainge, what's the other guy? My guy, man. The low post player. Danny Ainge, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, right? Man, they just was busting people ass. I mean, and that's all you can do, man. You just do your job. But Red Auerbach didn't get in their way. He didn't hold Larry Bird back. What was the guy? Casey Jones, um, he didn't hold, he just let Larry, he just not only did he let Larry be Larry, but he supported Larry. He put the players around Larry that Larry needed in order to be successful. Let me see what we got here. Larry was too busy talking on the court to be bothered. Yeah, man. And is that crazy though, man? Like, you already a minority, right? And you're gonna get out there and talk stuff. But the thing about Larry Bird, he backed it up. And everybody will tell you about Larry Bird that he would tell you what he was going to do, where he was going to go, when he was going to shoot, do it. And I don't think that people realize how crazy that is for you to tell a professional athlete, this guy get paid just like you do, what you gonna do and how you gonna bust his ass. That's just crazy. And the kind of confidence that it takes to be able to do that, like most people wouldn't be able to identify with that. Yeah, Larry Bird, man. Larry Bird definitely was too busy out there talking stuff. Maybe that's why he didn't hear like what some people were saying about him, man, because he just got out there and he just went to work on people. And so even if you're not, or you weren't a Boston Celtics fan, man, if you're a basketball fan, you had to appreciate what Larry Bird, was doing when he was with the Celtics. And so when you have Caitlin Clark served up to the WNBA and the Indiana Fever on a silver platter, and they not going to lean into this, man, I don't think the WNBA is trying to. I don't think they're trying to succeed. I don't think they're trying to elevate, or at least it don't look like they're trying to elevate. Maybe because they have the NBA, they don't want, because just think about how popular Caitlin Clark is. Like she is more popular than like the men's, like the Indiana Fever. Like she's more popular than the guys who play for the Pacers. You know, so maybe the NBA don't want that competition, man, from the WNBA and with somebody who can be as popular as Caitlin Clark. I don't know why they're not leaning. Why they're not leaning into Caitlin Clark. Um, I can't figure it out. But all I know that if they don't take advantage of this opportunity, then I think the WNBA is putting themselves, in my opinion, they putting themselves at risk of not really being around for very long. So yeah, let me see what we got here. Let me see if the WNBA is a nonprofit organization, then what is its purpose? Uh, Let me see, assuming Oregon had it and was not push race and gender and narratives, what is its purpose? That's a good question, right? So, and that's why I say, excuse me, and that's why I say, man, like you have Caitlin Clark served to you on a silver platter. You had the opportunity to ride this wave. She come in with a fan base that is, I mean, the fan base is just energized and attendance go up, sponsors hop on board, I don't know if it just looks like maybe they happy that like the powers that be are happy with the WNBA being in its current state, because I think like the WNBA could really compete with these other leagues if they lean into you know and take advantage of the fan base that they have. But I don't know, they do look more like a nonprofit. And so the WNBA, if they move the right way, they can go from being a nonprofit or a league that's being sponsored by the NBA to a league that's actually making a profit. Right? You don't have to be a so-called nonprofit organization. They can be a league that make a profit, a league that's competitive, like when it comes to competing with the NBA and college sports, right? Like women's college basketball is big, it's very big. And if you look at the support that South Carolina, UConn, Texas, UCLA, USC, like if you look at the support that those separate bases get, those separate colleges get, I think that can bleed over into the NBA. Just like when college basketball, in my opinion, was really, really big in the 80s, man. We used to follow players from their freshman year to whatever, like however long their career was at college. And then, by the time they got to college, we knew as fans, we pretty much knew like who was going to be able to stick in the NBA. We also look forward to them moving from the college ranks to the NBA, right? And so that was good for college, and it was good for the NBA. And I think the WNBA can follow that same blueprint because it's already there. Like people they're looking forward to Juju going from USC to the WNBA. They was looking forward to Paige. They was looking forward to the young lady AZ Fudd. And it's the WNBA's job, in my opinion, to just take advantage of that. And I don't know. I know that the WNBA is bringing on some new teams. They got the Valkyries that they bought on. They bought on last year the Valkyries. The Valkyries look pretty good. The Valkyries did good. So yeah, let me see what we got here. All right, so the NBA has become really bad to watch, man. The refs controlling the games too much. The WNBA is good to watch, but their agendas pushing narratives is too much to handle for a normal human being. Yeah, and so, all right, so I pretty much agree with this statement, right? Because when I go to watch the WNBA or any sport, right, it's almost like an escape. And I know like things are going on outside of basketball that are very important, but I don't know how I feel about like the WNBA, some in these sports league pushing certain agendas. Like we go to these sports for like an outlet. And everybody might not agree with that. Like when the NFL had the a controversy about Colin Kaepernick, right? And sometimes you do have worthy causes that everybody need to stand up for. I can go for that. I can see that, but it's a fine line between standing up for what's right and also being like a like standing up for what's right, and then using your platform. Like it's a fine line, but sometimes I think the WNBA gets a little too a little too political, like the alphabet mafia, and then it's just a lot going on with the WNBA when there's some really good basketball being played out there, and I think it takes away from that, right? And I can and again, like I said, I can appreciate like the WNBA wanting to stand up for certain causes and wanting to back up the people who are like, like the little man, or people in our society who gets taken advantage of, or who get the short end of the stick. I can appreciate that, right? Um, but at the forefront, I think should be the sport. It should be what's going on the court. Like, don't punish the fans. Like if the fans coming to you um for some relief, or the fans are coming to you like as a getaway or an outlet, don't throw that back up in their face. Just, put that first. You know, let me see what we got here. The sad thing is, bro, that Caitlin never has to say anything political. She just wants to talk about she want to talk about and play sports. But yes, her one coach and manager don't like her. They use her. Yeah, and like I said earlier about Caitlin Clark, I can appreciate the fact that she is just not feeding into a lot of negativity that's coming out. She just doing she just staying, she's still hungry and she's just playing basketball. So she not feeding into that. And I don't appreciate either, like the fact, or I don't get why they just not really leaning into like her popularity, capitalizing on her popularity, and just taking the league from there. I don't know. And again, so look, when they were negotiating, or they were talking about going into negotiation for the collective bargaining agreement, her name got thrown around a lot. You know what I mean? Like they used Caitlin Clark, her name and her popularity as leverage as to why the players, the recent success of the players, the recent success of the league, why they should get why the WNBA players should get a raise. And so now once you get the raise, man, you just can't, once you get the raise, you just can't, just throw her out, throw the baby out with the bathwater. I just think it's crazy. And yeah, Lewis, I agree, man. Yeah, she just wants to play ball. And that's what it boiled down to. She just want to play ball. The sponsors want to see her play ball. The fans want to see her play ball. But I don't know, man, if and it's just the way I'm looking at the WNBA. And even like I never watched a WNBA draft until this young lady was getting drafted. And that's crazy. And I know that that's true for a lot of people. Like, who watches the WNBA draft? And so ever since she got drafted, I've been watching, so I don't know, that is another way for the WNBA. And I know viewership has been going up because they're even advertising the WNBA draft. They're advertising that more than they used to. They pushing that. And so people want to see where AZ Fudd, they want to see where Raven Johnson was going to end up. They wanted to, like all these young ladies that were coming out of college, they want to follow their success. So these young ladies are coming to the league with fan bases. And I don't know. I just don't think that I hope that the WNBA and Indiana Fever just take advantage of what these young ladies bring to the table. Mainly Caitlin Clark. So let me see. Do you agree with Stephanie wanting to play her off the ball a lot? So the thing is, to be honest, I think Caitlin Clark is just so dynamic, in my opinion. Like if you put her off the ball, which number one, no, I think she should be the point guard, right? I think you should run through Caitlin Clark. But even if you do put her off the ball, the way she shoot, and she's still off the ball, she still can find the open man. So either way, I don't know if that's a way of really of Stephanie trying to minimize her impact. I like her decision making I think her decision making on the court is getting better, right? Like I said, she coming from Iowa where she would, she could shoot at will. She had the green light to shoot at will. But when you shoot like she do, then I mean you don't have really what you gonna do, like not tell her not to shoot when you can shoot like that. Um, I just think that I would run. I wouldn't have her playing off the ball, and she was a young player, so you know she's gonna make some mistakes, and but you allow her to grow through her mistakes, and that's how you do that. But I don't think you take her out of her natural position, you know. So yeah, man, I don't agree with Stephanie just to want her to play off the ball. Let me see. My concern is that yes, she can play off ball, but is Stephanie doing that to minimize her? Yeah, yeah. I mean, and see, this is the thing though. Like with somebody like Stephanie White, right? She's used to. I don't think she's used to coaching a certain way, and a lot of these coaches are used to. And let me say this about the WNBA coaches. Like I like a lot of these women who coach at the WNBA, but I think some of these WNBA coaches are even more stubborn than the men coaches. They're not as flexible as the men coach. Can you like if you got a player like who could play like Caitlin Clark in the NBA, man, the male coach is just going to lean into that because why? Because your success is connected to the success of your star basketball player, right? Can you imagine like if you got Giannis on your team and then you want to play Giannis somewhere where Giannis, it wouldn't happen. Like you like if you know that Giannis can win you some games, man, you're gonna lean into that, you know. So yeah, I don't know, man, what Stephanie White like what her motivation was for having Caitlin play off ball. When you see what she can do, um, when you see what she can do with the ball. Even like I said, if you don't agree with all of the decisions that Caitlin Clark make, you just gotta let her. Um, I think because you gotta let her like learn from her mistakes and let her do what she do. Let me see. Let me see. What do you say? She wants a slow motion old guard offense. Yeah. eh, So look, when Caitlin Clark first got to when she first got to Indiana, and they wanted to slow her down as soon as and it really wasn't working for her. But as soon as Indiana started to speed their game up they started beating teams that they didn't even like most people didn't even think they were going to be able to beat certain teams around the league. But when they sped that game up and that intensity level rose, then yeah, it was yeah, I don't, at certain times you could slow the game. I think they had enough talent whereas though they could play the half court. If the break wasn't there, if the secondary break wasn't there, then they could go to the half court. I like Boston. She pretty good in the low post, so they can do that, right? And then they had, they could run. But when they was running, that's when I thought that they had a lot of the success when they was running. And like I said, they caught the attention of a lot of teams. Like that second half of her first year, remember when you know what I mean? They just cut Caitlin Clark loose and they just started running and they started beating teams. Man, I actually thought that the second half of Caitlin Clark first year, I thought that she was going to hit that rookie wall, but she didn't hit the rookie wall. She just took off from there. So yeah, man, they got to lean into that. Let me see. It's easier to guard her if she's on the ball the majority of the time. Now, yeah, it is to a certain extent, and also it's easier to use her. That's a double-edged sword for a defense, right? If she's on the ball the whole time, you can wear her down, right? If she's on but also you can use her as a decoy too, because she garners so much attention. You kind of with her on the ball, you can dictate to the defense what you want them to do, right? So if you don't double team her, she's going to have success scoring. She's going to have success running the offense. Getting her teammates involved. Then when you start to double team her, or you start to do things to take the ball out of her hand, Then you set up other people on the court. You got to have other capable people on the court who can take the advantage, hit the wide open shot. If she's double teamed, then other people will be able to hit the wide open shot. So you can kind of dictate what the defense do. Like, have them pick their own poison. If you play off of her, she's gonna hit that long, she's gonna hit that three. If you play up on her, she's gonna go by you and possibly either score or she's gonna hit, you know what I mean? She's gonna drop the ball off to Aaliyah Boston or one of her other teammates. So allow your players to dictate what the other team do. Don't allow, you know what I mean? So like if you double team Caitlin Clark, all right, we're not going to use Caitlin Clark no more because they double team. I don't like that. Especially, like I said, when you have somebody that's just that talented, just let her figure it out. Like Michael Jordan got double teamed. Do you think that stopped Michael Jordan from scoring? No, Michael, he knew how to score on double teams. And that's something that all great basketball players, you got to know how to score on double teams. You got to know how to pass out of double teams. Because if you don't, then the defense will dictate what you do, so yeah, Lewis, yeah, she's a great playmaker. That's why if you run her off the ball too much, you lose a lot, because even when they double team her, she will find an open exactly. So allow her to dictate what the defense do. I mean, that especially when you got somebody that's so dynamic offensively, it's frustrating for defenses, and it's also demoralizing, right? Like, cause then you think of like, what do I have to do to stop this person? Like if you back off of her, she can score. If you play up on it, she's gonna go past you and possibly set her teammates up for a shot. So now you're talking about, so all right, so what can I do? And that's how you make Caitlin Clark an even better player, because you put her in situations where she has to elevate her game. So you already know off the bat that she has the kind of talent that's generational, right? So now like I said, you feed into that and you allow her to elevate her game. Like most players, you don't want them in that situation. Right? You don't want them to try to score when they're getting double teamed. But sometimes, like Kobe knew how to score against a double team. Mike could score against a double team. Larry Bird, they got double teamed. If that's all it took was to double team Larry Bird and he don't shoot, then Larry Bird wouldn't have 3 championships. But he had to learn how to play through that. That's not for everybody. Like everybody can't play through double teams. Everybody still can't hit the open man out of double teams. Let me see. Kelsey is a great scorer, and as great as she is, even when the year ended, she likes even. Let me see. Even with the year ended, likes she haven't CC. That's a great one more open, right? And so look, I like that 1-2 combination with her. Yeah, it just make them so hard to the Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. It just makes them so hard to guard, because that Kelsey Mitchell is a very, very capable scorer. So again, when you have, I think what they need to do is I already seen them saying like they're leaning this year into defense, right? They want to play better defense than they played last year, because they know, like the Indiana Fever, the coaches know that they can score. They can score inside and out, and they can run. Kelsey Mitchell can run. Then you have Caitlin Clark, you know what I mean? She's dynamic on a fast break too, right? So so I can see why they say, all right, so this year we know we got the firepower. We're going to go ahead and put more emphasis on our defense. Yeah, but I like Kelsey Mitchell side by side with Caitlin Clark. That is just so tough on the defense, man. It's tough. But like I've been saying, man, all podcasts, they just have to lean into that, They just got to lean into it and accept the fact that, just like the sponsors lean into it, the fan bases lean into it. So now it's up to Stephanie White and the rest of them, man, for this. Let me see what this is. Lewis. Oh man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your input, man. Let me see. Thank you so much, bro, for this, bro. Do you agree that Lexi is one of the most underrated defensive players in the league? You know what? I dig Lexi. And hell yeah, I think, man, she has and I'm glad you brought her up, man, because she has a really important role, a big impact on the team. Again, I just don't think, man, that I don't get. I'm looking for big things, like I said, from this Indiana team this year, man. They just like it. Just seemed like all the pieces there. You got Mitchell, you have Aaliyah, man. Yeah, man. Her defense, and she's a very intelligent basketball player. Lexi is so. Yeah, man. I don't know what else I can say about it. I just hope that Stephanie White, man, just coach this team the way that she needs to. Imagine Kelsey on the one side of the break and CC on the other side with two prolific scores as an option to kick out. Yeah, that's crazy. Is just crazy. Like how you when think about it though, right? Because most like even a team that has who plays great defense, you probably only have like one or two um elite like on ball defenders. Now you might have a team they might be great team defenders, but even a team that plays great team defense, like you can find a weakness on that. Like if you break them down one on one, you can find a weakness on that, right? So, but if you got Kelsey and Caitlin Clark on there, and then you surround them with shooters and a low post, yeah, that's just that's very hard to defend. Very hard to defend. And it just as a coach, man, it just make you I mean, as a coach, man, it just make you look like a genius when you got that much talent on the floor at the one time. Uh let me say, yeah, you would think they would have a big year. I'm looking forward to them having a big year. I'm just hoping that, like I said, they get out of their own way. Stephanie, don't overthink it. Just roll the ball out there, man. Let these women do what they do. Saying about CC off the ball at times uh, on the break. That's what I'm saying about CC off the ball at times on the break. Yeah. See, that's the beauty of it. Like sometimes on a fast break, you might have Mitchell. You know what I mean? You might have Kelsey with the ball, and then Caitlin Clark. she gonna pull up or she gonna find a place. She gonna spot up for the three. So she don't have to always be pushing the ball down the court. And because she can just do so much. She gonna spot up. She can spot up, and she gonna hit the three. So your focus will be on a Mitchell coming down with the ball. Then Caitlin Clark can go somewhere and spot up, and she can hit the three from anywhere on the court. So yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, I probably could coach them, man. I just roll the ball out there and just let them do their thing, and yeah, it's just like I said on a silver platter. They're really stacked at guard, and let me say, and Billings and Gerda also. I pray to God that they have hold on to Justice because I believe she's a talent that will grow into a great one. She shoots lights out. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, if you got shooters around Aaliyah Boston, and that's going to give her more room to operate in the paint. And just like the way Aaliyah Boston played against Wilson, what's Asia Wilson? I really enjoy Aaliyah Boston and Asia Wilson, although just going at each other, it just showed me that her confidence level is up and she has the talent to compete with like the best low post player in the league. She got the confidence and the talent to compete. So yeah, that was definitely something. Um, she didn't shrink in although they lost, you know what I mean? But she didn't shrink in that big moment, man. She played tough. So that's a good sign, something to build on, you know what I mean, coming into this season right here for the Indiana Fever. It was a good look. So yeah, man. So all right, man. You know what? I've been on here for over an hour. I appreciate everybody input, man. We had in my opinion, had a great conversation, some great input from the chat. So like I said, man, I'm gonna come back on tomorrow. I'm thinking about coming back on probably in between like 6 and 6:30 tomorrow. And we'll talk some more basketball, WNBA, NBA, and yeah, I appreciate everybody who participated in the chat, man. Y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, check me out tomorrow around 6 p.m., 6 o'clock or 6:30. And with that being said, I'm out and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.